Assalamualaikum and good morning. Today, we're going to have a topic on research problem versus research topic. Assalamualaikum and good morning for everyone. So before we start, just to remind everyone that you go to the chat and fill in the registration attendance for you to get the e-cert. I think the host Dino, Cik Dino will post those lines, those link in the chat box. Just open up the chat box and then fill up to get your e-certificates, okay? And then we will begin soon. So hopefully you fill in the attendance registration first, okay? I'll give you maybe another 1 minute to do so. Let me check, Sarah. Okay. Okay, so let's start. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum and greetings to all. I am Dr. Mazura Abdul Ghaffar. I will be the moderator for the talk today. I would like to give you my warmest greetings and welcome to our honorable speaker, PM Dr. Nurzalina Harun, to our FRSB graduates and all graduates globally, and then to our FRSB postgraduate talk series. And then I would like to welcome all students who attended this talk today. And then today we're going to have a talk on topic of differentiating research. Today we are going to have a talk on the topic of research problem versus research topic. And then before we start, let me introduce the portfolio of our speaker. Professor Madya Dr. Nurzalina is a senior lecturer and a senior research fellow at the Institute of the Malay World and Civilization in Universiti Kebangsaan Malaysia. She is also the head of focus research area in Universiti Kebangsaan Malaysia, and she has led over 50 research projects and engaged with 100 over peer review publication. Her niche interest is in the growth of B40 community through the creation of a more livable and sustainable settlement. She graduated her degree in landscape architecture in 1999 and later had her master in urban conservation in 2005 from Universiti Islamic Islamic University, International Islamic University, Malaysia. She obtained a doctoral degree in 2011 from University Technology Malaysia, which focuses on environment and behaviors in urban design study. Okay, before we start, I would like to encourage all audience to post your questions in the chat box so that Professor Madya Dr. Nurzalina can answer them after her talks end, okay? So without further ado, I would like to welcome Professor Madya Dr. Nurzalina to give her valuable talk in research problem versus research topic. The floor is yours, Dr. Nurzalina. Thank you.
Okay. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh. First and foremost, I would like to thank the chairperson or the moderator, okay, Dr. Mazura Abdul Ghaffar. Okay, and also my gratitude goes to Associate Professor Dr. Muhammad Johari Muhammad Yusof, as well as all the secretariat in FRSB to make to make this program materialize. Okay, and then my gratitude and welcome to all the participants who are participating in this program today. Okay, so the title of my sharing today is on differentiating research problems and research topic. Okay, so why research problems? Because throughout my experience in supervising as well as examining the research proposal in numbers of research areas, I discovered it seems that research problems is the core subject for which once the student or we as the researchers are clear with what to discover and what to solve, then only we will can see the whole picture of the research and how to design the research. Okay, so to me, research problems is very important. The student as well as researchers really need to understand how does research problem sound and how does it look like and how does it will lead you to a good findings. Okay.
اشخاص مثلا
So firstly, I would like to share with you how do we know that the problem is real and the problems is deserve to be investigated. Okay. And in order to state the problems of our research or our study, there are basically 3 steps. Okay, 3 steps involved. First, we need to identify the concern that come up regularly in our study scope. Okay, if you're in the field of engineering and you narrow it down into mechanical engineering, or in my case, my background is my research background is more on urban design and conservation. So I need to know, okay, what are the concerns in urban conservation? Okay, if you are in the discipline or your research expertise is on architectural detail or architectural conservation. So what is the concern? Okay, that has not been resolved. Okay, the issues that has not been resolved yet. And then secondly is you may find that most often than not that you may find that the issues, okay, the research issues are too broad, okay, or too general. Therefore, you need to refine the issue based on your area, okay, based on your expertise or based on your interest. Okay, after this, I will show you step by step on how are we going to refine the broad or general issues accordingly. And then thirdly is to determine the research gap. Okay, once you have refined the issues in according to your research interest or your research expertise, then you need to identify the gap. Okay, so this is where we can distinguish between research problems and the subject problems. Okay, subject studied problem is not a research problem. Okay, so there are basically there are several more than 6 characteristics of that make good research problems. Okay, the first one is possibility. Okay, once you decided to conduct a research, okay, or once you decided to pursue your master's by research or PhD, as well as once you decided to plan to write for your research proposal, okay, the first thing that you should put in mind is the possibility for the research to be conducted. They are often that I read too many problems and too broad research problems may cause you to non-possibility for you to conduct the research. Okay, so you have to ask yourself, and then if you are a student on the first day, okay, when you come out with your research intent, okay, when you go and meet your future supervisor or your supervisor, sit down with him or her and then ask her and discuss with her whether, dear sir, dear professor, can do you think that my research intent is possible to be conducted within the limitation that I got, the limitation that I have. If you are a master student, you only normally got 1.5 to 2 years. Okay, that is your limitation as a master student. And if you are a PhD student, you only got 3 to 4 years. Okay, with a limited budget, with a limited time, you need to identify your real gap and the proper research problem. Okay, so the first one is possibility. Okay, can your research intent be investigated without expending too excessive in terms of duration or time, and then energy, and as well as financial. Okay, yes, it is not undeniable that everybody, especially the young students who decided to pursue their masters, they are very too idealistic, for which they seems to too eager to solve many problems, but you have to narrow it down. Okay, narrow it down, and then you have to put the limit. And as I said just now, you need to sit down with your supervisor or your postgraduate managers. Okay, ask them, discuss with them whether it is possible for you to carry out this topic. Okay, and then significant. Okay, beside possibility, you need to think and rethink again and again on the research that you intend to study. Okay, whether it is significant enough for you to study that. Okay, significant and hobby or your personal interest is different. Okay, because it is evident. Based on the developed. Okay, we can see how developed country become a developed nation, a developed a community. Okay, through research. Okay, so that's why we cannot mix up between our personal interest, our hobby, with research intent, with your research intent. Okay, especially this also goes to the student who got or got the opportunity to pursue their study, okay, by using the financial support from the government. So it is your obligation, it is our responsibility to conduct a research that can solve at least the problem of one particular community. Okay, so back to significant. So it's worth looking into the significance of the research topic, because definitely it will add to essential understanding to the researchers, and as well it will give benefit to the community. Okay, and this is also another problems which I normally face when examining research proposal or becoming the examiner of many postgraduate students' thesis, in which the problem statement is too unambiguous, ambiguous, okay, too ambiguous, in which that you cannot understand or you cannot clearly see what is the actual problem with this research until the student wanted to carry out the study, because it is too ambiguous, too vague. Okay, and then number 4 is ethical. Okay, for which a good research will not result in physical or psychological injury or degradation to human nature, as well as the social environment, because you are there to conduct the research to solve problems, okay, of the community, of one species, for example, to overcome the degradation of the forest, the environment. So we cannot end it up with humiliating or create another problem for which by right in the first place you are there to solve the problems. However, and in the end you are creating another problem. So it has to be based and ethically correct. Okay, and then interesting problems, interesting topics for which it can help your interest, or it can stimulate and motivate you to finish the study. Okay, because it is not easy for us to spend 2 years, 3 years, or 4 years dealing with one single subject or two single subjects for 2 or 3 years. So you have to make sure that you are very passionate about that particular topic. Otherwise, you need to find a way, discuss with your colleague, discuss with your supervisor on how are you going to make this topic interesting, and how to maintain your interest and passion in that particular topic for the rest of your study period. Okay, and then number 6 is contributing to the current body of knowledge. Okay, so that's why a good problem statement, I can assure you that in the end, from a good identification of problem statement, you can definitely contribute to the new body of knowledge. If not in terms of affirming the current theory, you might also extend the current theory with a new discovery of new domain or new dimension. For example, if the existing theory will have only 4 underlying dimensions, and through your research that is based from a very clear problem statement, I can assure you at least you can extend at least one new domain. Because when you are very clear with the research gap, you are very clear with your research problems, definitely the research will be non-repetitive. It will be it will create a novel findings. Okay, and then again, so the attributes or the character number 6 is closely related to number 7. Okay, many often than not that I also discovered through the examination of many theses. Okay, that a good theory a good selection of theory and good understanding of the theory will lead to a good finding and formulation of new theoretical framework. Okay, so in your early period of your research, you really need to read a lot and find most related theory to your subject. Okay, a good theory, because a good theory is the most practical type of knowledge, because unlike a fact, okay, which deal with statistic and numbers, theory, it organizes and guides classes of activities. So that's why a good literature review, in the end, it will create a very good theoretical framework from which, from chapter 2 theoretical framework, you can have a very clear theoretical implication in the end of your chapter, be it chapter 6 or be it your chapter 7. Okay, so this is one example. Okay, today I will share with you on how do we develop a problem statement, a clear problem statement, until the stage of proposing the research topic. Okay, the first step is identification of the concern that come up regularly in the study scope. Okay, and of course, different background will see or will deal with different concern. Okay, so in this case, the study concern is urban conservation. Okay, because my background is more, or my research is related more on urban conservation. So this is the regular concern in urban studies, okay, which everybody knows about the consequences of rapid urbanization. But when I try to narrow it a bit based on my background or my interest, so the problems sounds like this. rapid urbanization is having a profound effect on the community, the urban area, the environment. Okay, so everybody knows about the consequences of rapid urbanization. If you are not from the background of urban studies, if you are from sociology, economy, even engineering, okay, you are well aware about on the consequences of rapid urbanization. But in this case, I narrow it down on urban form and pattern of urban space. Because of why? Because I'm from the background of urban studies, and much of my research were done in dealing with urban conservation. Okay, so this is identification of regular concern in your study. So today I want you to, especially the beginners or the student from the first semester, okay, from the first semester, okay, you can start jot down what are the regular concerns in your studies, okay, in your area of studies. Then the second stage is how to state the problem of your study. Okay. Previously, it is very broad. Okay, the problems are made known by everyone, but now we are going to narrow it down. Okay, so how to state the problem of the study? First, define the issues based on your area of expertise or your interest. Okay, so this is where interest, hobby, or affiliation is allowed. Okay, is allowable. Okay, because you wanted to make sure that the topic that you are going to discover or you are going to live for 2 years or 3 years is something you are very passionate of. Okay, so this is the regular concern that when I narrow it down into my personal interest, okay, my research interest, this time around I started to think of urban morphology. If before this, my study area or my research were done more on public spaces, okay, place attachment and place meaning. But in one of my study, I discovered that the changes of urban form has resulted to the loss of sense of place, and then sense of place meaning, place attachment. Therefore, I started to think of, and I tried this time around. I tried to jump, okay, or dive into another sub-discipline of urban studies, which is urban morphology. So I discovered that rapid urbanization is having a profound effect on the structure of urban form and pattern on historic urban spaces throughout the world. So how do I narrow it down? I narrow it down when I did the literature review and exploratory literature review. I discovered that rapid urbanization, the major concern or the major problem just now, rapid urbanization is also having a profound effect on the structure of urban form and pattern of historic urban space. Okay, because why do I state historic urban space? Because my background is urban conservation, so I narrow it down according to my previous background, okay, study background. So this is how I narrow it down, okay, the research topic or issues. So listen carefully, okay, because this is where we begin to differentiate, okay, the research topic issues or the research topic problems with research problem. Okay, research topic issues or research topic concern or research topic problems is actually the subject problem. Like today, the subject is urban form and urban pattern, okay, in historic urban space, okay, or historical urban area. So when I read, okay, when I do the exploratory literature review, I discovered there are numbers of research topic problems, stating up the research topic issues or problems. For example, the townscape suffered from conflict between applicants and local planning authorities and the lack of an integrated approach. Okay, another literatures also stated that as a product of the human transformation of nature, the complex partial and physical properties of the underlying surface of a city are obviously different from those of the natural underlying surface. Then, coupled with the heat and pollution generated by human activities, cities have a significant impact on the local climate. So the first one is about the planning, okay, the planning aspect, and the second one is on significant impact on the local climate. Okay, so these are among the research topic or research concern on the subject of structure of urban form in urban area, right? But as mentioned earlier, that the first or the previous statement is actually the problems of the subject, the problems of the historic urban areas. But what are the research problems? Okay, so the research problem, okay, addressing the issues of the suffering, conflict of the townscape is actually derived from the inadequacy of analysis on the intricacies of urban form and space in urban design and development. Okay, inadequate of analysis and studies. Okay, who said so? Chapman, 2006, Sixna, 2006, as well as Wu, 2018. They have regarded that the townscape conflict, okay, due to lack of integrated approach, is resulted from the inadequate analysis. Okay, and then secondly, so what are the example? Another example. Okay, so based on the second example about the local climate impact. Okay, so why does that problems happen? Okay, so and how through research the problems can be resolved or can be solved. Okay, so as someone or has other scholars realized about the problems, and do they know how to overcome the problems through research? So therefore this is another example, okay, addressed by Helia as well as Porta et al. 2010. Okay, according to him, what resulted to the problems of from the human transformation, the complex partial and physical properties of the underlying surface of a city happen. Okay, why the significant impact on the local climate happen in the urban area is due to, okay, according to both scholars, both group of scholars, is due to existing tools in quantitative geography are ill-suited for urban form analysis. Again, the problem is on the analysis, inadequate tool. Okay, inadequate tool. So from now, you have some ideas that the method of analyzing the local climate in urban area need to be researched further. And then, as well as the first problem mentioned earlier, that you also discovered that it is the analysis or the inadequate method in analyzing the urban form and space in urban area is still missing. Okay, there's some missing link. So this is how you derive or how you get some ideas on with framing out or formulate your research problem. Okay, and then regular concern in urban morphological studies. If the first step just now I shared about the regular concern in urban studies. Okay, but this is the second layer. After you have fit or you suit with your research interest or your research passion or your research or background expertise. Okay, so okay, once you know about that there are lack in terms of analysis and tools, okay, then you start to ask yourself, why the intricacies of urban form and space in urban design and development planning were not explored? Why this has not been explored? And how to capture the complexity of urban form through a handful of other measurable characters? That, okay, all of this you discovered or you found it based on your exploratory literature review. And then when you try to fit in to the local context, okay, you should ask again. After you came out with several research questions, and then you ask again, the similar circumstances occurred locally? Does this happen locally? I mean, in your country or in your district or in your state, where do you live? Okay, so this is where this stage is how are you going to state the problem of your own study? Okay, so by determining the research gaps that are most relevant to your field and interest. Again, okay, again and again. The process is quite repetitive. Okay. On. Okay. So these are the steps in how are we going to determine our research gap. Okay, first we need to determine our research gap. You cannot escape from the first step, for which you really when you decided to jump or dive in research world, okay, you cannot run, you cannot escape from reading a lot of articles in journal articles, books, okay, for theories on the topics that you like the most, okay, on the theory, on the topics that you are really interested to solve the problems, and then certainly discuss with with an expert, okay, with your supervisor, okay. So that's why it is very important for you to study the background of your supervisor before you pursue your study, okay. Don't go and study under the supervision of the supervisor because you like him in person, but uh, not as the expert who knows very well about the subject that you are going to pursue, okay. So you have to do a homework before you do the selection of supervisors. Same goes with if you were to discuss with an expert. You don't go if just now the problems dealing with the planning authorities and landscape designers or urban designers. In order for you to 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 really understand the underlying problems of the research, you should go and meet and discuss with the expert, not a colleague of yours who is working in the town and country planning department. Okay, you cannot simply do that. In order for you to really understand the problems that you wanted to solve. Okay, and then thirdly is use digital tools. Okay, there are many tools at the moment in how to identify or narrowing the research gap. Okay, I will show you after this. And then go and check your materials, reading materials from a famous or good journal website. Okay, don't go and read a book that sound more like a storybook, because it is very difficult for you to identify your research gap as well as research problem later on. And then repeat these 4 steps again and again. Okay, this is one way, okay, to identify your research gap. Okay, like just now, you know already that the research problem in urban morphology, okay, globally and locally, okay, is having got to do with the tools of analyzing the urban form as well as urban pattern. So you go to Web of Science, or you go to Science Direct, you go to Taylor and Francis, for instance, and start to type to find the article on urban morphology plus analysis. Okay, and then you will discover and then go into the most related discipline, which is urban studies. Okay, then from there you will get some ideas on the theories employed, the methodologies employed, the keyword selected by previous scholars, okay, or the prominent scholars in urban morphology who is dealing with analysis of urban morphology. Okay, and this is another way on how to determining the research gap. Okay, so you can go to open knowledge map, and then you type urban morphology and analysis. Then you discovered that the biggest area or discipline which had studied urban morphology and analysis is from architectural and discipline, as well as urban growth and cluster analysis. Okay, so you can find several related articles that may suit with your topic. And then okay. From there, okay, from the exploratory literature review, which were often conducted on global urban areas, okay, you will begin to start to look and discover whether similar problems happen in your country. In my case, Malaysia. Okay, I started to find out the urban morphological report. Is there any urban morphological report in Malaysia? Oh yes, I discovered there are 2 urban morphological reports for 2 historical towns in Malaysia. When I read the report, I discovered that both reports have not been gazetted. Okay, means that there is another problem. Okay, we have 2 morphological reports in the country for 2 historical towns, but it has not been gazetted until today. And then when I contacted, okay, the expert, okay, so back to the previous steps mentioned or shared just now, for which the second step, discuss with an expert or your supervisor who is the expert in your area, in your study area, and then discuss with the expert. Why does morphological report in town A has not been gazetted? And then he said, oh, there are some problems. After we send the first report, the draft report to an expert, they said they rejected because they said that it is actually not a morphological report. It is a land use report, because in urban morphology, there are actually 4 urban morphological elements that need to be mapped and then discussed and then analyzed. However, morphological report for town A seems not to fulfill the requirement. And then I start to ask the expert again, why does this happen? He said, oh, this thing happened because of we do not really have the tools to map out the 4 morphological components. So I can confirm, okay, from here I can confirm that similar problems on morphology, urban morphological analysis throughout the world is having similar problem like my country. Okay, so I start to jot down and narrow down my subject to be studied, which is urban morphological analysis. Okay, this is the first subject. Okay, the urban morphological analysis. Okay, so it has been confirmed that we have a problem on urban morphological analysis. Then, when I refer to post-morphological studies, the draft morphological report, I discovered that it seems that both reports were conducted on the colonial town. What happened to the Malay town? So, yes, again, I discuss and ask and check, okay, with the local authority or related authorities to confirm whether is there any department have done a study on urban morphological analysis on Malay town. They said so far no. So Malay town here is my biggest gap apart from urban morphological analysis. Okay. So from the earlier problems which I had already discovered, okay, rapid urbanization has had a significant impact on the structure, so I put Malay urban form and pattern. Okay, and then what caused this to happen? So throughout my discussion and my interviews with the expert, as well as exploratory literature review, I discovered there seems to be an absence of a systematic urban morphological analysis framework. Okay? There is an absence of a systematic urban morphological analysis framework with due to the study of urban morphology for Malay town. So That is my research problem. Okay, so that is our research problem, which is, to me, when I explain to other people, it don't sound ambiguous anymore. Okay, and another research problem is ambiguity of the formation and transformation process of the traditional and local cities. Okay, so these are the two reasons, okay, or these are the two problems that cause to the fragmentation of development of Malay historical town, okay, or the degradation of Malay historical town, because the local authority do not know how to prioritize the urban form and pattern. Therefore, we can see rapid urbanization that happen by and the process of demolition of many historic urban form and pattern. But this is a very huge problem, okay? This is the topic issues, the subject issues, the subject problem for which I am not capable to solve it. But with my background and my expert and my interest on urban morphology, I think I can contribute. I can contribute to resolve one single part of the problems. How? Through the development of systematic urban morphological analysis framework. So this is why I told you earlier in the beginning of my talk, why do we need to have a very clear research problem? Because by having a very clear research problem, you can perceive your anticipated finding, which is urban morphological analysis framework. Okay? In research, it is very critical. It is very crucial for you to visualize the anticipated finding. If not, you will be keep on searching, keep on changing your aim and objective, your research question, okay, your site study, because they are ambiguous. Okay, they are still ambiguous. So this is the main problems. Okay, so the ambiguity of formation and transformation process of Malay town that make you wanted to start, to develop the urban morphological framework analysis. So from there, you can start formulate, or you can start to inquiry or stipulate or formulate groups of research questions. The main research question and sub-research question. Okay. So in the end, you can come up with the research topic, which is urban morphological analysis for the preservation of Malay traditional town in Malaysia. I think I hope I had delivered a clear information or shared an informative ways on how are you going to differentiate the problem, the research problems, and your subject problems. Okay, let me okay, let me share with you some of my experiences in reading or examining a thesis or supervising my own student. Okay, for example, the problems is she discovered that the declining performances, academic performances, the declining academic performances in one rural school was contributed by the poor infrastructure. Okay, so the poor infrastructure as well as the declining performances here, academic performances here, is the subject problem, the situation that happened. But you are not the teacher, neither the student's parent. So how are you going to solve the problems? Through research. Okay, how are you going to resolve the problems through research is to determine ways on how, for example, how to get a proper infrastructure, okay, to support the learning, teaching and learning activities in the rural school area. Okay, so you started to ask the teachers or the parents on the process in getting a good infrastructure, for example. So that's how you differentiate the subject problems and research problems. Okay, in many cases, the student seems to be confused with the problems of the subject for you to study with the problem that you are going to resolve, okay, for your thesis or for your research. How may I know how do I skip this slide presentation?
You can slightly just unshare. You go back to the share button, just click that again, and then you will unshare.
There's no button for unshare.
Just click that again.
Cannot.
Or maybe on the top of your screen, there were like a scroll button, and then it says unshare. Cik Dino, can you help Dr. Zalina how to unshare the WebEx?
There's only share content, share web browser, share my meeting window.
Can you just click again, share my meeting window?
Okay.
Can you see something? Yes, it's unshare now. Just now it's unshare. Suddenly it's just shared again. Okay, let me check. How do I? Okay, it's unshare now. Maybe it's slightly later. Okay. You're done with your talk, Dr. Zalina?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much, Dr. Zalina, for your very informative and enlightening talk just now about how to engage with the research method and so on. And then we have a few questions from the floor. First, we have from Javid Daltana. I think it's he. He asked how to choose a theory most relevant to our variables.
Okay. Thank you, Javid. Okay. You really need to undergo the similar process. Okay. Begin with reading. Okay. Of similar topic that you intend to research. Okay. For example, if you wanted to study on behavioral studies, okay, go to the Web of Science or Science Direct or Open Knowledge Map just now. Okay, you just type behavioral studies and what is your area of discipline. For example, urban area. Okay, then you type behavioral studies in urban areas. Okay, so if you have discovered, okay, if you have discovered the problems, okay, the research problem, you add on, and from the articles that you are going to read, I'm pretty sure in the literature review part you will find out several numbers of related theories. Okay, and then once you bring or you try to suit it with the local context, okay, try to narrow it, narrow your search into local context. For instance, if you are from Iraq, okay, try to find a similar study locally, okay, Iraq context, okay. So it requires a lot of reading, okay. It requires a lot of reading. There's no shortcut in determining research problems as well as determining your variables, okay, because from the theory and it doesn't mean that if you are studying behavioral studies, it doesn't mean that you are uh, encapsulated by single theory. Okay, sometimes there are more than one theories related to solve the problem statement, your problems, your research problems. Okay. How?
Okay. Next question will be from Nurin Adlina Azmi. She asked, how many references should we have to have a strong research problem?
Very good question. Okay, normally, even though it is not fixed, okay, it is not fixed, okay, not fixed, but for masters, okay, by research, I would say at least you should read 150 articles. or 150 references, the least, okay, the minimum. And for PhD, I think 300, okay, and try to make, try to set it as a habit, okay, where in order for you, because if we reiterate back, okay, the steps, okay, the 7 steps in determining a good problem statement, okay, one of the steps is you have to think on the possibility, okay, to reach the final line, okay, the completion, the completion, the line, okay. So like you have to make a framework or set a milestone, okay, set a milestone. If you set to your set a milestone with your supervisor, tell yourself whether you wanted to graduate in 18 months or 24 months, okay. So start not only to gather or identify research problem that requires you to interact or communicate with an expert, but in order to finish your studies on time, you also need to go and meet and ask the person who finally made it, okay. For example, you know one student who graduated on time for 18 months without correction. You ask them, okay, you ask them how many hours you spend normally to read an articles per day, okay, or when did you start your work to do your thesis, okay. And normally, based on my experience with the person I met with the requirement shared just now, normally they will work as early as 7 and ended their work daily basis around 6 to 5. So minimum hours you need to if you put an aim to complete your master's within 1.5 years, okay, you need to spend at least 8 hours per day. Same goes with PhD candidate. 8 hours per day is a minimum. Don't work during over the weekend. The weekend is for your family. The weekend is for you to reward yourself after you completed 7 articles after reading 7 articles per week. Okay, so reward yourself. Don't stress yourself. Okay. And then
Okay. Just to add a few more from Dr. Zarina, from my experience as well, maybe my tips can be useful for others as well. I think what you can do is that from my experience, if you can find, this is all my student. If my student, I will ask them for PhD to read 1,000 journal. From that 1,000 journal, you can get the big picture of whatever you want to do in the research topic. So once you have the idea of the big big idea, then you can narrow down into themes. So that themes, suddenly you realize that you have this a few themes that you are interested in it, and then that would be your keyword for your PhD and whatever research you are doing. So for masters, maybe I would suggest 300, and then from there you go for teams, by teams as well. So it's like a systematic review where you find the big picture first, then you find your literature and then segmented it, dichotomy them into a few segments which can make the the paradigm of your design. So it can govern your design within that boundary only. So you have a more focused reading, more focused, and then from there you can read each of the selected journals on how they do the research problem, how they do their research method. So from there you have the idea whether you're going to go for qualitative or quantitative and so on. Okay, so that's my tips lah. Okay, just to
Yes,
add,
yes. Similar.
similar kan. And
In
then
which you have to thematize. Okay.
yes,
You
thematize.
the
You
articles.
thematize so that you have a systematic of how you handle the information, because from the experience, from my experience, the students have a very vast information out there. When they read, they have problems to dichotomize those information into segments. So what you can do is that you separate them into themes. So this theme must appear in your main research question. So it's easier for you to maybe to delve in depth about the topics, and then you know where is the gap. So that is much more systematic. Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Zalina. So the next question is from Ananto Probawo. He would like to ask regarding the problem statement that derive from research gap. If the case has a very few, 1 to 2 studies in Malaysia, can we proceed this as a research problem? If can, how are we going to do?
Yes, Ananto. Yes, you are right. Okay, we can proceed this as a research problem, like the one I shared just now. Okay, why we consider that as research problem? Because due to inadequacy of the research conducted on that particular topic has resulted to a continuity of the problems. Okay, like the one I shared. Why rapid urbanization has led to fragmented preservation. Okay, preservation of urban space and urban form, which finally lead to the loss of place identity. And then when we do the exploratory literature review first, okay, before we seek the confirmation from the expert, when we did the exploratory literature review, we discovered that no wonder why this seems to be a continuous problems that occur, okay, or occurring in our historical urban area, because they only throughout our readings, okay, we only discovered 3 articles, and there's no book to be referred to. So we can put aside and jot down so the inadequate references. Okay, and then we, to confirm that there's no studies being conducted, so we go and get the confirmation from the related parties. Okay, once this had been confirmed, then of course we can proceed with the area that we feel that we wanted to study further. Okay, you go back to your interest, you go back to your research, your research concern. Okay, for instance, you notice that there are numbers of problems, but again ask yourself, am I going to be patient enough to work or to do the research on this particular topic for another 3 to 4 years? Or do you really okay, research is actually the research topic, okay, not only be based on your background, but research topic selected by an individual is also very much related to his or her value, okay, personal value, okay. Why some people, we can see them continuously, okay, keep on doing a research on the native people or orang asli. There must be some soft spot, okay, in his or her heart, okay, to protect and to educate or the native people. So the research scope or research area that you are dealing with from time to time, day to day, is not only influenced by your research expertise and interest, but also the values that embedded in you. Okay.
Right. Thank you, Dr. Zalina. Next question is from Siti Farida Kamaruddin. She asked about research gap. Is it an older source like 70s or 80s are considered obsolete to be pursued?
I think so. Because unless, okay, so unless you after, okay, during the 70s, 80s, 90s, and early 2000, okay, if you can see the trend, okay, if you can see the trend that the problems has not been resolved until 2020, then yes, it is confirmed that even though it has been raised up as early as early in the 1970s, but when you do the exploratory review and you do the preliminary studies, okay, preliminary studies on the ground, you discover that the issues which has been raised as early in the 1970s up until now, it has not been resolved. So yes, uh, you may take that as a research gap. Okay, but if you own the exploratory review or your preliminary research only stopped in up to the late 1980s, then I would advise you not to proceed, because it might somewhere along the way someone else has already taken up the topic and solve the problems.
Right. Next question will be from Tony A. Raikan. Yeah, Raikan. Okay. He asked, how can we measure the similarity of this of thesis? Is it, what is this? The thesis compared to the previous study. How can we measure the similarities of our thesis compared to the previous study, and how much similarity might have be acceptable? Okay.
Okay, good question, for which the answer lies back to research problems. Okay, to the research problems, as well as it can, okay, first the research problems, okay, like uh, the one that we discussed earlier. Okay, the problems is on urban morphology. Okay, does the adequacy or the lacking of methodological framework, the ambiguous methodological framework happened to your country and then my country. Okay, you wanted to study that, but what are the main problems that made the research is not resolved in your country? Is it because of the ambiguous analytical framework, or due to the process of the in terms of the planning process? Because I'm pretty sure that the problems might not be similar. Okay, even though me and you have similar research intention to study on urban morphology, but I'm pretty sure that the underlying problems might not be the same. Because of what? The planning process is not the same. Okay, and the layout of the urban form is not the same. Okay, so there must be some underlying differences that may differentiate our research with your research. Normally, like if you are doing the study on behavioral studies, cultural background will be the gap. Okay, cultural background will often be the gap. If, for example, you are going to study about the climate changes, okay, the climate in your country, the microclimate in your country and my country is not the same. So that will be the gap. Okay, and the gap, for all you know, the gap that we have is can be potential to become the most significant findings that determining the novelty of your research later on.
Right, thank you, Dr. Zarina. The next question will be from Yang Yin Mei. The student asked if I conduct a pilot test, publish in conference proceeding, can it be used as my problem statement? Is this reliable as I will be cited my own paper?
The process is similar as we discussed. Okay, because I'm pretty sure that before you conduct a pilot test, you have done the exploratory review, you have done the checking or the confirmation. Then, to me, it is reliable. Okay, like in my case, okay, May, okay, May, like in my case, maybe the case of my previous research is quite similar to what you were trying to convey in this case. Okay, in my case, I wanted to study about the demolition and the loss of historical open spaces in historical town in Malaysia. Okay, when I do the mapping, when I do the pilot study, okay, or the preliminary studies, I discovered that the most common open spaces which receive highest rate of demolition is called padang, or Indonesia it is called alun-alun, or in some country it is called as the esplanade. Okay, which my preliminary study conducted on 10 historical towns, I discovered at least 5 padang or 5 alun-alun, 5 esplanade had been demolished. and succumb for commercial development. Okay, and then just like me, I also presented, okay, the preliminary findings with regard to the circumstances that happened to Padang as my gap. So to answer your question, yes, you can take the result or the findings of your pilot study to support your research gap, as well as to become your research problem.
Right. Thank you, Dr. Zalina. The next question comes from Milan Stefan. I think is it wise to choose a topic that less reference regarding of our research topic? Is it wise to choose a topic that less reference regarding of our research topic? Not clear the question. Maybe Milan can ask yourself if you want to. What sort of questions you want an answer from Dr. Zarina, or maybe Dr. Zarina can explain that.
I think I can understand. Dear
Okay.
moderator,
Okay. All right. Okay. Go
we
ahead.
don't need the time. Okay, because the first characteristic of determining good research problem I mentioned is possibility. So that's why Milan was asking about, with a very limited time, is it wise to choose a topic that less reference regarding of our topic? I think she or he was referring to the limitation that he had. He had. Okay. To me, if you have several limitations, I think you can keep that interest, okay, or for your future research. Okay, for your future research, because it depends. It depends on the availability of references. It can be the non-availability of several numbers of important references also might influence to the delay of the completion of your research. If you have several limitations, especially time limitation, I might advise you to put aside, okay, to put aside the research intent or your research interest for your future research. When you can formulate a good research proposal and get some research finding, why not? Okay.
Just another tip from me, just to add to Dr. Zalina. What you can do, Milan, is that what I noticed that when the reference is very limited, what I did with my students is that they need to write up their paper in terms of their ideas and research, and then publish that first, then they cite the paper. So it is a peer review. So that will validate or verify whatever topic that you said is having less reference. So it's being validated by the peer review on the subjects. So you can use back your, you can cite your paper as well in in your thesis, so that it will validate whatever research you're doing. Okay. Right. Next would be from Hong Xiang Zhu. The student asked, does similar circumstances occur globally and locally? Then how should we do next if it's similar or it is not similar? If similar, how should we judge the similarity?
Okay. If similar, if too similar, if the similarity index is too high, then you need to find a new topic. Or otherwise, okay, if the similarity is just the percentage is less, okay. So you try to really understand and study the real gap of the uh, the, the 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 topic that uh, you discovered quite similar to the one that you are going to pursue. If it is already completed, then it is your job to narrow narrow down your gap. Okay, you have to find out another gap. Okay, but if the study is in parallel, then if you have the contact number, you can contact them. Okay, because at the moment we are living in a uh, borderless world, for which you can easily contact and just send an email, communicate with them. Okay, telling that hi, I'm studying this and that. I found out that we have a similarity in terms of research question or research interest. So may I know the real the gap of your study so that we can share some information and whatnot. Make friend with him or her.
Okay, next question will be from Tayalan Arumugam. What are the changes I should make in my research and thesis in terms of content of thesis, research method and publication style if I intended to convert my master's to PhD?
Okay, expand expand the scope of your study. Okay, at the moment, if uh, if if you don't mind, can you share with me so that you can have a clear explanation, Thailand? If you don't mind, you can share with me your research topic so that I can advise you on how to extend the scope of your study.
Hi, doctor. Can you hear me?
Yes, Tayalan, can you share your screen?
Oh, share screen my research topic.
Yeah. Is it okay for you to share, or is it you just want to discuss?
Yeah, my study is about quantitative analysis of coconut germplasm in Malaysia. So there's no much research have been done. Now we are trying to develop a new variety of coconut that is not been yet in Malaysia or in global yet. So since I have the opportunity and then I've discussed with my supervisor, he said it is possible to convert this into a PhD. So I just want to know what are the changes that I should make in my research paper. Currently, I'm in semester 2. I'm just going to start my semester 2.
May I know your background?
You mean my background, my study? Agriculture.
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 Okay. Have you considered or about the policy, the current policy with regard to agriculture in your study?
Current policy in terms of?
The current policy with regarding agriculture? Dasar Pertanian Negara, for instance.
Currently we are discussing with DOA, Department of Agriculture, and then I think by next week we will discuss with them, and then from there on they will let us know what are the principles and policies that we must consider before we can further the research. But this research is actually under RMK level, where government have emphasized on making these as a one of the NKRA. So we are looking into having a new commodity in near future.
Okay. I think it is possible for you to extend your research scope and look back into the current gap. Okay, in order for you to extend the scope, the research scope, it will be good if you can extend the research gap or broaden up the gap a bit or crystallize the gap. If at the moment you only discovered around 1 or 2 gaps, then discuss with your supervisor, is there any possibility for you to extend the gap further? Not to, don't make it too many, but just extend another gap that can really benefit DOA.
Okay.
Ah.
For example, like adding in, maybe we can add IoT into technology, because right now we don't have IoT, Internet of Things application in agriculture, especially in coconut. Maybe I can broaden the gap into IoT and also usage of AI. Is that like that?
As long as okay, you can add on the IoT, but as long as it has a good a strong relationship with the previous two or your previous gap. Don't make it too fragmented. Make sure that it is interrelated, still interrelated within the within similar group of study. Okay, can you do you understand what I'm
Yeah.
what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's clear.
As long as the another new variables or dimension that you are adding up later on has the relationship with the previous gap and the current theory.
Okay. Understood, doctor. Thank you very much.
Welcome.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Zalina. Next will be from John. The question is that, do you think we have to learn research method before writing papers, or we can begin our research with learning methods at the same time?
Okay, in my case, I practice the second one. Okay, for which I conduct my exploratory literature review. At the same time, I try to identify the most related studies which I intend to conduct, and then from there I study the research method that the past scholars employed. Okay, so that I can at the same time I could also confirm the reliability and validity of the research which I will conduct later on. In my case, I practice the second one.
Right. Thank you very much, Dr. Zarina. The next question is from Muhammad Isa Bomoy. He asked that what is the method of reading a journal paper to extract relevant information?
I think both of us had already answered this question, for which you do a broader, you go, you situate your research in a broader scale, and then you start to thematize them. Okay, thematize them and try to then you will start to understand and you will slowly know the most related theme or the most related problems with the one that you wanted to carry out. Okay, so first you have to, for example, okay, I give you an example. How do I normally situate my research? Okay, like the one I mentioned earlier about the demolition of open spaces. Okay, so what are the factors that that lead to the demolition? Okay, there are many factors. Okay, change of land use, and then rapid urbanization. Okay, change of ownership. Okay, from there, in this case, after reviewing several literatures, you discovered and you can start to thematize. There are actually three factors that determining the loss of open spaces in historic town. Okay, and then change of land use. Okay, change of ownership, and then rapid urbanization that requires the land to be succumbed for commercial activities. Okay, then you choose from there. After you discovered the three themes, okay, then you go back to the number 5 steps or characters that determine a good problem statement just now. Okay, so based on these three themes, which one that you have the most accessible references or accessible authorities which can give you further information or support your thesis, and then whether do you really interested to deal and study about land use change, or you are more prone to study in terms of the technology. So back once you had thematized, okay, the journals or the paper that you have read, then you start to ask yourself, and then you start to discuss again with your supervisors, because do not work in silo. Okay, because it won't help you to resolve anything. Do not work in silo. Even though doing research is a lonely work, okay, especially when you are doing your PhD or masters, but I'm sure that you have your own colleague, your supportive supervisor to discuss with. So do not work in silo.
Right. Thank you, Rosalina. So last but no, there's another question. Okay, there's another one here. Zhu Li. The question is, I have 3 research questions formulated in my thesis. Do I need to state the 3 research problems?
No, like the one I shared just now. Okay, I got two main research problems, but you might have only 2 research questions. But from one research question, normally you will crystallize them into another 2 or 3 sub research questions. So it doesn't mean that if you have three research questions, then you need to have 3 research problems. No, the formula is not like that. For which normally research question will have more questions as compared to research problems. Okay, do not stipulate or do not work on too many research problems, because again, you have your own limitation. Unless you are granted with $1 million research grant, and the client or the funder give you ample time, for example, 5 to 10 years for you to resolve or solve the problems, then only, yes, you can have as many as research problems as you could. Okay.
Right. Last question from Sadia. Sadia, the question is how much percentage of gaps can mention in introduction chapter, which is already discussed under problem statement section?
Which one?
The last one. How much percentage of gaps can mention in introduction chapter, which is already discussed under problem statement section? From Sadia.
Okay, how much percentage of gap can be mentioned in the introduction chapter, which is already discussed under problem statement section? Okay, normally gaps is located under the problem statement section. Okay, so the gap again, the gap can only be 1 or 2 gaps. Okay, because in the research you cannot afford, if you're a student, a master or PhD student, you cannot afford to fill in too many gaps. Okay, so if you are very clear with your problem statement, I'm pretty sure that you can describe directly what the gap is, like the one just now. Okay, we discussed earlier. So the gap is inadequacy of methodological analysis framework, okay, to conduct morphological studies for historical Malay town in Malaysia. So the gap is inadequacy of methodological framework. So that's it.
Okay, I think that's the last of the question. Hong Xiang was asking the same question just now. Do we need 3 reasons to have 3 problems, or and then 3 gaps from it? So Dr. Zalina has answered this one already. Okay, just another tips from me to everyone. If you want to read your, there's a question from John just now. Oh, sorry. Okay, Muhammad Isa Bomai. Just to give the tips on Muhammad Isa, how do you read literature journal? Okay, my method, that I teach to my students is that first you find a few hundreds of journal first by browsing the abstracts. So from the abstract, you can get the big picture. From the big picture, then you can see where is your direction. From there, you sort out again from that vast of literature, journal literature. You find out in the abstract whether does the abstract contains research problem, method, what else? Result, and then knowledge contribution and future studies. If the relevant, the selected journal does not have those content in the abstract, meaning I would ask my student just to skip that journal. So when you skip that journal, you will have like a short listed of journals. So from 300, you will go down to 100, and then you sort that again and try to read half through of the journal and find out whether the journal is appropriate towards what you're studying. And then if it's appropriate, then you will down to another maybe 15 to 10. So this 15 to 10 will be the most significant journal that you're going to refer. And then this is where you can find the most relevant thematic that I suggest just now for each of you to sort out the theme for your main research question. So that's what I did with my students. So there is a vast various of ways. So Dr. Zalina's ways also is okay. Mine is also okay. So if you can find another way which suits you, also okay. The good thing about when you read a lot of the journals, you can have the latest current issue, the latest finding, and so on. And then you realize that, oh, the thing that you want to do is something outdated. So you need to retune your research into something up to date to the context or towards your niche area that you want to do. So that's just my another tips lah for everyone lah, if you are interested to you. So I've posted like one journals there, which I find it very interesting. It helps how you demystify your arduous doctor journey. So in the literature, in the journal, it says what the difference between PhD and masters. So from there, maybe you can get a clearer picture from an additional value information from Dr. Zalina. And then if you want to have a further clear idea how you want to do the literature, you can read Chris Hart, okay? So I posted those journals and the book name in the chat for you to refer, okay? Dr. Zalina, is there anything else that you want to add? Okay, I think we'll end the session now. So thank you very much again to Professor Madhya, Dr. Nur Zalina for all advice and encouraging dialogues with us today. And we believe with your feedback, knowledge and expertise that you shared through the FRSB postgraduate series today will benefit immensely our postgraduate students' research skills. We thank you, your contribution, and most valuable to us. Before we end our talk, okay, I would like to remind again all not to forget to register your attendance in the link given in the chat box, okay? And then I would like to give a big thank you for all for participating for today's talk, and I hope you enjoy it. So stay safe and Assalamualaikum and bye.
Thank you. Thank you for
Okay.
sharing.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for coming.
All right. Bye.
Thank you.